Hello, fellow sports fans, and welcome back to the Sports Playground channel. If you're new here, feel free to drop a like and subscribe. I know, that was a fast plug, right? So, today we are going to be doing something a little bit special because we don't normally do stuff like this. So today we're actually going to be doing, as the title says, what does the PFF mock draft simulator say about the actual NFL draft itself? Where are players going to get taken? What's going to happen? So what we're going to do is so here we are right here. So we're going to switch it off fast and we're going to put it on very slow so that way you guys can actually see the picks. So let's go on less random because some of these teams do draft pretty randomly. The Bengals. So anyway, let's do that. Care for positional values. And let's see public and PFF. And we got to select a team. And yes, I am selecting the second overall pick, Washington Redskins, first. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm trying to get a simulation of every single team, what they're going to pick. So if we select Washington Redskins and we do it like this and we hit start mock and we start the mock draft, so it says Tua Tagovailoa is taken first overall. So we're actually going to reload the page and we're now going to go in as the Cincinnati Bengals. And you know what we're going to do? And we're going to put it on less random. Make sure all the settings are correct. And we're going to hit start mock start mock draft. So we're not selecting Joe Burrow. We are selecting Tua Tagovailoa, which is an honest shock in my opinion. So there he is. He's like right at the top. Stupid. So let's take him real quick. And so it turns out, so now we the Bengals have taken Tua Tagovailoa. Now, instead, the Redskins, which this is, in my opinion, a pretty stupid move, they decided to go for Joe Burrow. They said they showed all confidence in Mr. Dwayne Haskins, but clearly they just absolutely don't care about him anymore. They said, nah, screw you, we are taking another quarterback here in another round one. They're doing the Cardinals strategy here. So anyway, moving on to pick 3, we have Chase Young going at pick 3. So Chase Young, great, talented player, and honestly, he's going to a team that really needs it in Detroit. So I think this is the pick that actually makes sense, unlike Washington taking Joe Burrow or any quarterback in the first round this year. So we're going to hit resume. And Isaiah Simmons. So this is a shocking pick in my opinion. So it's said that of all the positions, they need to protect Mr. Daniel Jones back there in the pocket, which I say that makes sense because he needs all the help he can get to not be a first-round bust, in my opinion. So a tackle would make the most sense, but they need some serious help on defense. And they're actually taking Isaiah Simmons as a safety here, which he's considered like a hybrid linebacker, safety sort of guy. So that is a little bit surprising there. I guess they need a linebacker safety type guy. But okay, so moving on, pick 5, we have Miami, a little bit of a surprising pick, not going for any of the quarterbacks left on the board, which mainly I think the quarterback that they would probably go for, and I think this is the reason why, is Tua got taken. So you would think they would go for Mr. Justin Herbert, but that is not the move they're making. They're going wide receiver instead, which is a very important position, but I don't understand why they don't take a quarterback. If there's any position they need, that's definitely it, and they need a lot of positions. So anyway, moving on, we have pick 6, LA Chargers. Also, going to work around the quarterback position, they're going to go with pick number 6, C.D. Lamb, which that's another, again, both of these guys are highly dominant wide receivers. So they can get the job done. They are strong, talented, great wide receivers with high comparisons, such as DeAndre Hopkins, best guy since Julio Jones coming out of the draft. They have high comparisons, but again, I'm here in the same boat as Miami. I don't know what they're doing not taking Justin Herbert here. That just seems like that makes more sense than anything else they could have taken. So, once again, moving on, we have Carolina not going with Tristan Wirfs, Jedrick Wills, or Mekhi Becton. They decide to go with Andrew Thomas, which that's a little bit of a weird pick when all three of those guys are still left on the board. Those guys are said to be the most dominant tackles left in the draft, but I guess it's a very deep offensive line class, so I think it's go with who you want here. Anyone's good, but in my opinion, Andrew Thomas is not the guy you want. You definitely want one of the other three. So Jeff Okudah going to Arizona, which this is a dumb decision because Patrick Peterson is on the opposite. He's on the opposite side of Jeff Okudah now. Why do they need another corner? In my opinion, if they needed anything, it was an interior defensive lineman. That's just a very important position to at least hold blocks and stuff runs. And they decided to go with a corner, which their pass defense, they already have a lockdown cornerback there in Patrick Peterson. I don't know what they're doing. Anyway, moving on, we have Tristan Wirfs finally, and this is one of the better picks in the draft in my opinion. We've got Tristan Wirfs going from Iowa to Duval Jacksonville, the new member of the Jaguars. So this is a smart pick because they need just about every position. A quarterback would be great, but a tackle is very helpful for young quarterback Gardner Minshew, and I think this is a prove-it year for him. If he doesn't get the job done, they draft a first-round quarterback next year, maybe Trevor Lawrence if that guy is still relevant next year. Moving on, we have Derek Brown of the Cleveland Browns coming out of Auburn, which this is who I said Arizona was going to pick, but obviously they just didn't feel like picking him, and Cleveland also doesn't feel like picking an offensive lineman, which, again, you've got to help out Baker Mayfield. He can't seem to get blocks over there, and this doesn't make as much. They already have Myles Garrett and Larry Ogunjobi who can dominate. I don't understand this pick, and so I want some justification down in the comments for him. So anyway, moving on, we have Henry Ruggs, the Jets. Okay, this is a pick that makes a lot of sense. They need a wide receiver. A tackle would have made sense too, but this is an understandable pick. They needed a wide receiver, terribly. I don't think that anybody that they have, Quincy Enunwa, I don't think that's going to be a number one receiver caliber guy out there. So Henry Ruggs honestly makes a whole lot of sense. An absolute speed demon. And I think that'll just work out for the Jets. Sam Darnold needs to actually throw to someone that's not like an absolute no-name receiver. Moving on to, so apparently it didn't pause. So now we have Las Vegas Raiders. They are picking C.J. Henderson, which, again, this makes sense. Taking a corner desperately in need of secondary help. They have a struggling, horrible, and when I say horrible, I mean it. This is a terrible secondary. Trayvon Mullen, they need someone to put opposite of him, and I think that'll work. And moving on, San Francisco, they actually do need a young tackle. Joe Staley can't play forever, even though it seems like he's kind of immortal out there. So Jedrick Wills makes sense. The third of those three great tackles in this draft goes off the board at 13, and it just makes a lot of sense. So Tampa Bay, they decide to draft Grant Delpit, safety out of LSU. Again, it makes sense. They do need a little bit of secondary help, which I think that's just an understandable pick. I don't really have a lot more to say about it. Sorry. Moving on. we have Denver picking Javon Kinlaw out of South Carolina. So Javon Kinlaw, a great defensive lineman, and it kind of makes sense. But now they have Jarrell Casey as well as Von Miller. Sorry, Mr. Coronavirus Von, Mr. Corona Von out there. So I think this is, if they just want to keep building defensive line, this is the way to go. But I don't know if it's the right move for them. Maybe they take someone else, maybe on offense. I don't know. Maybe you take like another tackle or guard. I don't know. Moving on, we have Christian Fulton going to Atlanta. Again, another just absolutely abysmal secondary, especially without top corner Desmond Trufant. This is going to be a bad secondary if they don't draft a corner, which that just makes sense to me. Moving on, we have Justin Herbert finally going off the board. Are the Cowboys... Okay, I think Jerry Jones needs to go to a retirement home because this may have been the stupidest decision he's ever made. I'm sorry, what? Oh, why is Justin Herbert going to the Dallas Cowboys? Clearly they believe in Dak, since the rumors are $30 million. In fact, he's making $30 million this year. I don't know why you would pay a quarterback $30 million just to draft a rookie in the draft. Apparently, Dak hasn't shown enough to them, which, in my opinion, he has shown enough to be the starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. All you gotta do is throw the ball to Amari Cooper and hand the ball off to Ezekiel Elliott. I could probably play starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know why they need to draft a quarterback when Dak is perfectly fine. Moving on, Xavier McKinney to Miami. Again, makes sense. They can put him opposite of Rashad Jones, another pretty bad secondary. This is a sensible pick from the Miami Dolphins. Moving on, Laviska Shenault. So, did you guys forget that Justin Jefferson exists? You forget about T. Higgins? We're just going to skip over to Laviska Shenault. We could just... I guess not. So, who did they draft earlier in this draft? So, earlier in the draft, the good old Las Vegas Raiders, they had drafted C.J. Henderson corner. They needed that. And now, for Derek Carr / maybe even Marcus Mariota to throw to, they've drafted Laviska Shenault. And honestly, in my opinion, he's not a true number one receiver. I think he can get the job done, but maybe as a wide receiver 2 or 3, which they desperately need a wide receiver 1. So now, okay, there we go. Justin Jefferson, this is a very smart pick from Jacksonville. One of the best talents left on the board, in my opinion. He's going to go to Jacksonville. Again, now he's got someone to throw to besides DJ Chark. Excuse me. Justin Jefferson, strong pick. I think this will work out for him. Moving on, AJ Espinoza. So AJ Espinoza going to Philadelphia as the number 21 pick in this first round of the NFL draft. Terrible decision by the Eagles. Come on. Horrible decision. Draft a wide receiver. Do it. That's what you're supposed to do. Draft a wide receiver. Come on, guys. And Minnesota, moving on. Also, another team being very stupid, resulting with a draft of Patrick Queen. I don't understand this. Their linebacker core is generally pretty good. So, Patrick Queen doesn't really make sense. If anything made sense for defense here, in my opinion, that's corner, and they didn't take a corner, so I'm disappointed. Moving on, Josh Jones headed to New England. This offensive line really was not that good, so this pick is very understandable from the Patriots. Moving on. New Orleans, this is... What? What is this? What is this pick? Why are you picking Jordan Love? This does not make any sense. I understand you... I thought you said Taysom Hill, the quarterback of the future, coming up. But why? You don't need to draft him. Okay, cool. You want him to sit on the bench for 3 years as wasted talent, then go ahead. Now moving on. Jalen Reagor headed to Minnesota. They do need a second wide receiver of any sort. Someone that can actually play football. If you can catch the football, I think you're qualified to play second receiver for the Minnesota Vikings. It's a fact. Moving on, Miami, another team, wide receiver needy. This makes sense. They're taking T. Higgins, strong, big receiver from Clemson. Well, that'll be helpful. Throwing from, this is, okay, I'm sorry, I forgot, I have Alzheimer's, and, they picked Jerry Jeudy. What are they doing picking T. Higgins? I don't know. Are they going for best talent on the board, or what's the goal here? I don't understand. So I guess they're picking T. Higgins instead of any other position that they had of need, like offensive tackle maybe. Any offensive tackle would have been better than picking T. Higgins here. Anyway, moving on, we have Trayvon Diggs of the Seattle Seahawks now. This is great. They do need a corner who can play some football, and this is a smart move for the Seahawks. I understand it. It's not necessarily what I would have done if I were the Seahawks, but it works. Moving on. Tackle, Mekhi Becton. He just went 27 to the Baltimore Ravens. Miami, what were you guys doing? What are you doing? Mekhi Becton is still on the board, and you're picking T. Higgins, and you already picked Jerry Jeudy. Stupid. What are you doing? Mekhi Becton going to Baltimore Ravens. That's all I have to say about that because I'm too busy talking about the Dolphins. Moving on. Jalen Johnson, corner, Tennessee. Makes sense. Malcolm Butler has been a disappointment. If Adoree Jackson stays healthy, that's good, but they still need another corner. Moving on. Denzel Mims headed off to Green Bay. Another very smart pick, big brain, coming from the Green Bay Packers. So the Green Bay Packers have decided that it's a good idea to pick up a wide receiver because they don't have anyone besides that Davante Adams guy and Aaron Jones to play any sort of skill position. There's Aaron Rodgers throwing to wide receiver 1, Davante Adams, and then wide receiver B, wide receiver C, that nobody even knows. And then washed up Jimmy Graham and handing it off to Aaron Jones and running back 2. Moving on, AJ Terrell, San Francisco 49ers. A pick that sort of makes sense. I mean, sure, why not bolster your secondary? There's no such thing as too many players that can play in your secondary. Moving on to the final pick in our mock draft. Guess not. See it down here. It's all the way down at the bottom. We have Kansas City taking Jeff Gladney, corner, another team that needed to bolster their secondary. Makes sense. And this is going to be the end of my watching a mock draft simulator. Yes, we're a reaction channel now. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.